If you're an Australian, this car needs no introduction. It's the Ford AU Falcon.
You're watching MotoringBox, proudly supported by Century Batteries.
Welcome back to MotoringBox. I'm Sean McKellar and today we're kicking off a new project. We've got our old friend, the AU Fairmont, back here in the garage. This is actually a car I've owned for about 5 years now and I can't believe it. Because when I bought this thing back in 2019, I expected I was just going to make a funny video with it, a couple of silly things, and then sell it off before it cost me any money. I remember actually really being pissed off when the exhaust fell off it. Not that time, the first time. I was livid with that. I was like, damn, this thing's costing me money. This is not going to plan. But yeah, here it is 5 years later and many, many thousands of dollars later too. So come on in, let me show you what we've been doing. So the main plan with this car is actually to turbocharge it. But before we do any of that, I've just been doing some maintenance. This thing had a leaky front main seal, which I've replaced. Don't mind the coolant, but yeah, it's got a new front main seal behind the harmonic balancer there. Put everything back on here. I've also replaced the radiator. I had this really janky kind of 55mm alloy one, which should have been awesome in theory, but it didn't really fit up properly. The front mounts, or the whole top of the radiator, I guess, was sitting a bit high when you slotted it in, and you couldn't actually tuck it in under this panel here, so it always kind of sat forward a bit. Wasn't really happy with how that was going, so yeah, it also meant the fans really had to jam down in there to get them in too, so that's gone out. I'll try and flick this off to someone. If you want it, let me know in the comments below. I'll put a pinned comment. So yeah, we've got a new, I think it's a 25mm core, plastic end tanks, like it should be all right. I've also taken the trans cooler out for now, because we need space for an intercooler. So this is a stock XR6 turbo one, which I've just got sitting in here, dummied up. Lots of space, look at that, tons of space. So the plan with this thing is really to turbocharge it, but do it with a lot of factory parts. So the idea was get a lot of B series XR6 turbo parts, bolt them on, because a lot of them can bolt on, funnily enough, use a Haltech to then run the show, and then don't go too crazy with it, you know, kind of like Ford's vision. If the AU Falcon came turbocharged from the factory, how would have Ford done it? It would have been like an AU Intech 240T, 240 kilowatt, something like that. We might go a little bit higher, we'll see how we go. That's the beauty of the Haltech. If we want to pump the boost up a little bit more in the future, we can do that easily enough. So here's a few of the parts I've got. This is about half of what I've got so far. There's a lot of B series factory turbo parts. We've got the factory B series turbo manifold. That does not bolt up to an AU Intech engine, so you need a 6-boost manifold adapter. This bolts up to the side of the Intech head and then gives you the proper bolts for the Barra stud pattern. The ports as well, the exhaust ports sort of go from the AU style to the BA style. So everything flows nicely and it'll let you bolt this thing straight up, which is awesome. Bolted to that manifold is a new Pulsar turbo. This is a 3584R. It's a standard sort of B series turbo. Same as what I've actually put in the BA XR6 that I've got. So that should go nicely. I've already fitted a 5-pound wastegate spring to that, so it's going to be kicking in at a nice low boost level, let us control the boost. In theory, we'll be able to use a boost controller to go up to sort of 10, 12, or maybe just a little bit more if we want to, or if we can, we'll see. And yeah, you can see there's a lot of factory B series turbo stuff here as well, the whole crossover piece. We've got heat shields, we've got the standard dump pipe there as well. We've got intake piping. I've got a whole hot side piping kit here as well in metal, in alloy I should say. The only other thing I didn't mention is we've got a Haltech Elite 750 in here with a custom Hooten's harness, patch harness I guess you'd call it. So this is going to be running in piggyback, I guess, in tandem with the stock ECU. So we'll talk a little bit more about that later. but it should mean that the stock ECU can handle a lot of the functions of the car, cruise control, you know, all the running the dash and all the other things. And then the Haltech's going to be stealing the running of the engine aspect off it, but it's not going to realize that it's not in control of the engine. It's going to think it is. So to me, it's really the purest way, I guess, you could turbocharge one of these things. What it means is you don't need to change really much on the engine, right? You can still keep the cable-driven throttle body. You can still keep the coil pack block, which is down the side of the engine. You don't need to run like coil on plug like Street Machine did with their AU back in the day. You can still run the full factory system as it is. But yeah, there's a few little things you need to do with the Haltech to do that. And yeah, the alternative is to use a BA XR6 Turbo or B Series PCM, you know, the ECU that sits here in the engine bay. But to run one of those, you need the drive-by-wire throttle body. You need to get the pedal as well. And then yeah, like Street Machine did, you need to actually go coil on plug or run coil packs of some description, because that's what the B Series ECU is expecting. So yeah, we've got a few things to finish up here in the engine bay, and then we're going to get straight into trying to splice that Haltech in. Might seem a little counterintuitive getting rid of a transmission cooler, but look, it's a new radiator. It shouldn't fail for 5 or 10 years, but yeah, we will put that cooler back in before then. We will do it in the near future. We've just got to figure out where to put it. For now, the front real estate was way more important. It looks like it would fit with the intercooler, but it's going to be tight. So yeah, getting it out of the way to me makes sense. We're most likely going to replace these lines in the future at some point, so they were bent out of the way a little bit. So we're just bending them back. Alright guys, so we've got the transmission lines into the radiator for the cooling. I've got some new hoses which are not here yet, they're on the way. So we'll leave all this alone for now, but let's pull out the wiring for the Haltech and I'll step you through how, in theory, we're going to do it. Alright, so here's the deal guys, we've got our Haltech Elite 750. This thing is tiny, look at that, it's literally smaller than my hand. So this will need to mount under the dash near our AU ECU. We've got a wiring loom which Bill from Hoot & Harnesses produced for me. The Haltech was around $1,600. This harness was another $350. So to give you an idea of how this works, this harness is going to plug straight into the Haltech. And then these wires here, which I've checked the continuity of and double checked the colouring of and actually labelled what each of them do, are going to splice into the wiring loom right beside the AU Falcon ECU. So a lot of these are just going to splice in, so the AU, the wiring is still going to go to the AU ECU, but this is just going to like tap into it. But then a few of them, like the injectors and also the ignition wiring, is going to actually be cut from the ECU and then bypassed into this wiring. So the AU Falcon has 6 fuel injectors, so there are actually 6 injector wires in this mess of a loom. But when it comes to the ignition, right, the AU runs a wasted spark ignition system, which means there are 6 spark plugs, right, in the AU engine, but there are only 3 igniter circuits. So at any time there are 2 spark plugs firing, and out of every 2 that fire, 1 of them is in a cylinder that it actually doesn't need to have a spark plug firing in. So that's why it's kind of like a wasted spark system, if that makes sense. So there are 3 ignition circuits. That's all you need to know. The issue is though, is that because we're not using the AU Falcon ECU, that ECU actually has what you call an igniter, or 3 igniters built into it that sort of, in my understanding anyway, send this charge of energy through to the coil pack block, and which then puts the spark to the spark plug. So the Elite 750 does not have igniters built into it, and that's where you need a triple channel OEM igniter, and that takes the place. That's literally got the igniters built into it. I told Bill what I was planning and he built this harness to suit. So there is a spot here where this igniter can clip in. So yes, the 3 spark plug igniter channels in the wiring, they go from the ECU to here, through the igniter, and then back out into the loom. So somewhere in here, where is one? Coil, there we go. So there's coil 1, there'll be a coil 2 and a coil 3. And they splice back into the wiring harness on the AU, and then everything runs through to the coil pack block as standard, through to the spark plugs as standard. There is one more thing though. On the BA Haltech Elite that I've got in the BA XR6 Turbo, it actually has an onboard wideband controller for the O2 sensor. This does not have one, so you need a separate wideband box, which the O2 sensor, wideband O2 sensor plugs into. So I also need this, and then this one is going to plug into here. It's like a CAN port, and it also needs power as well, so that's going to hook into a power and earth wire on this harness as well. The awesome thing about Haltech is they have a lot of documentation on their website telling you the pinout, so it's number 26 ECU power, number 10 earth ground. Now I'm not a professional, I don't have professional tools. I'm simply, I've removed a bit of the sleeve here on the wire. I've made a little hole in the wire, and then I'm going to poke this one through and wrap it around a few times, and then yeah, we'll put the sleeve over the top. And it should mean it's a nice solid connection as well. I've got a kit of these things which I got off eBay. Nice and cheap. I'll put a picture on screen and also a link in the description below. We'll let it cool down a bit before we handle it, but the solder's all melted in nicely. The heat shrink is also shrinked up nicely too, so yeah, that should be a nice solid connection. We just got to do the same for this one now. The igniter does not need any external power, so it gets power and a signal through the slew of wires that go into it, so that's cool. Yes, but the wideband one now has its little connection cable here. That one goes to the ECU, so that'll go in here, like so. And then this one goes to this one here. So now that'll mean the wideband one has power. It also has the CAN signal as well for communications, and then this one goes to the wideband O2 sensor. So that really should mark the end of the modifications that need to be made to this, this harness. All that's left to do now is to take the plunge and do this side of it. I'm nervous. Right, so you'll have to disregard the fan noise because it's very hot down here at the moment. But we've got our AU ECU out from behind this securing mount, whatever you call it. Looks like a single 10mm bolt to get this connector off the ECU, so we may as well do that now. We can then check the pinouts, and then it's just a simple matter of finding where to mount all of this stuff. I'm actually thinking for the main Elite 750, there's actually a bit of a void down here on the firewall that we can probably just cut a little square of carpet away and just put it there. The wideband has to go somewhere nearby, and then also this triple channel igniter, that needs to be mounted onto metal so that it can sort of dissipate heat. So we'll have to find somewhere, there's probably a spot down here on the left that can go. They're all going to be in the same vicinity as each other, so I think that'll work out okay. We'll just, we're not going to mount everything until the car's well and truly running and we're happy. It'll just be loose until then. So yeah, let's get this off. All right, there she is. Cool. Now there's a mess of wiring going into this thing. As you can see, there's 4 rows of connections. So according to this diagram, it goes all the way up to 104. Okay, 104. All right, so we have to refer to these numbers here, which doesn't quite visually match the diagram. This showed 2 rows of pins. This has got 4, so the layout that's shown here is going to be different to what's here, so we have to rely on the numbers. So yeah, it should just be a simple matter of intercepting or tapping every single wire on this list, and then we'll be done. So there's about, what, 30 of them that we need to do. Starting with the idle control, it's an intercept, so we can find it, cut it, join it onto the new Haltech loom. Hold on to your butts. So to begin with, I've found the idle control wire. So it's pin 83, so that starts at 79, 80, 81, 82, 83. Yeah, we confirm that's the one, which it is. So that's our first intercept of the day right there. So I'm going to cut it with a little bit of length left going into the ECU connector, just in case we somehow need to put it back again. Battery has been disconnected. This marks the beginning. I'm bleeding for some reason too. This is why I wear gloves, because yeah, you end up cutting your hands up otherwise. This is going to be a very slow process because I have to keep referring back to the numbers on each one. So we're looking for a green DPO2, pin number 1. As we go, like, we're going to have less and less to deal with. Idle control, I've just found it. So what I typically do with these things is I bend the wire into a hook. See if you can spot that. I bend it into like a hook shape. So what I do now is I hook this one into it. It's going to be a little bit hard to show you. So these two are now linked together. Then I just squish them down, and then the solder will literally fuse everything together. Just 29 odd more wires to go. So here's a look at the sheet. So pin number 1 is a green DPO2. It's for idle control, and it joins up to ECU pin 83, which we just did. Join type is an intercept. As I mentioned, this spreadsheet will be linked in the description below. If any of you are tackling this and you have a hoot and harness, all of the colors that Bill uses are on there as well. I don't have the colors for the AU ECU pin, but you're really just counting the pin number. So next one is the AC request. So we are after number 92, just a couple of pins down. Yeah, and you just literally do that for the entire sheet. All right. 79, 80, 81, 82, 83, 84, 85, 86, 87, 88, 89, 90, 91, 92. It's a pink one. And it's actually numbered as well. It's got a number every so often. So that pink one is 92. So the challenge is just tracing it up through the mess of wires and finding out where you can grab it from. It's kind of right in the middle. So we've got to triple check every time we do something here. AC request. So we can try and keep all of these ones together, I guess, in a sense. The solder melts through every single part of the wire there. So literally that whole centimetre there is now just full of solder. And it's very hot. I'm not going to show you all of these, but yeah, we're literally doing the same thing 32 times. Cue the time lapse. Right guys, a few days have passed and I've got everything now joined into the AU loom. It doesn't look pretty. In fact, I think we should censor it like a naughty Japanese video. But everything is just dummied up at the moment, not reinstalled of course, so this is all, it's all just everywhere. But we're gonna go for a battery power on and see if everything behaves as it should. And if it does, we'll be able to plug a USB into this thing and start configuring it and then start testing the pinouts, seeing if everything is responding as it should. We're still far from an engine start at the moment, but yeah, we're going to see if we can at least power this thing on and see what happens. But yes, first, the battery. This so was close. Can you tell I'm nervous? Let's try that again. Well, I heard the antenna doing its thing like it usually does when you reconnect the battery, so that is a good sign. Let's go for a key power on, shall we? We're on accessories, there's nothing yet, but I remember on the BA Haltech, you actually have to go to reds to get anything happening. Okay. We've got a power LED. I'm going to grab the laptop and the USB cable, see what it tells us. Okay, so let's start recording so we can show you guys this, and we'll open up Haltech NSP. Tell you what, at least it powered on. That is a good sign. All right, here we go. Okay, it's connected to an ECU, that's good. This little green icon here shows that, and the fact that it's loading things. It's loading, taking a while to load some errors. Okay, we're accepting the agreement. That's just how it goes. What do we got here? Engine position error, PD16A timeout. What I've actually got, what I'll do is I've actually started making a map. Well, I started a couple of weeks prior. So what I'm going to do is try and import that map now. And this was created using a Haltech base map, but then also on the Haltech's website, they actually have a page dedicated to the AU Falcon. And they have all of the information, well, a lot of information anyway, to do with all of the sensors and equipment on this car and how to configure them. So what I'm going to do is we're going to import everything and then we'll see if the car's happy or not. So we've got our AU Fairmont Turbo Barra tune. It's now loaded, we're going to restart it. What do we got here? Engine protection enable. That's just about the check engine light, we can ignore that. So there's no other errors. What we've got at the moment, right, the only thing outstanding I have to do is to actually wire in a wideband O2 sensor. I've got the wideband box wired in, but there's no sensor attached to it. So we've got a whole lot of things that we need to configure once the car is actually driving, but we can't do that for now. But really, it's good to see that the only error we have is actually, yeah, with that wideband, which, you know, is not plugged in. Okay, what I'm going to do before anything else is we'll update this, and I might actually call the video here, call the end of it. It looks like we've got the Haltech installed. It looks like it's happy. I guess you won't know until we try to run the car. There is a hand symbol flashing on the dashboard for smart lock, so I might have to have a look at that as well. But yes, leave this one with me. We're going to have to see what's actually going on here, see if that car is actually going to start. If the smart lock hand is flashing, yeah, I'm going to have to figure out why that is. So there's going to be a little bit of troubleshooting. I'm not going to let you guys wait around while I do it. So let me get back to that. We'll see how it goes. And then I'll have an update for you guys within a couple of weeks. There is going to be a bit of a break between this video and the next. But yes, we are actually underway now with this project. It's been a long time coming. And I really hope you get a kick out of how it all goes. I really hope we don't have too many hurdles to jump. Smart lock does worry me, so that is a concern. But yeah, if you're really looking forward to seeing this car turbocharged, make sure you subscribe, make sure you like the video, share it with your mates. This car has been crying out for a bit of love over the years, so it's interesting and fun to be finally giving it a little bit of that. So thank you very much for watching, guys. Have a good one, and I'll see you very soon.